question you pose of how do we find flow in an open office environment is the answer to that is very similar to an answer you might have as a parent in terms of how do I find flow, or a job where you've got multiple sort of roles or multiple distractions coming at you whilst you're trying to do one thing. And maybe you're at work and you're trying to write an email, but you're overhearing a conversation, and then you've got someone who's sort of asking you a question from 4 meters away, and meanwhile you can see someone going to get a drink and you feel thirsty, and there's a distraction there. And open offices are great in the sense of socially finding flow. They can be very innovative. That social distraction can give us that novelty, can take us out of that control, or maybe even out of that kind of anxious state and into a place of deep focus. And those sort of interruptions can keep our state moving. Often when our states stay in one place too long, we become entrenched, we become stifled, we become depressed, and our performance and the quality of our experience goes down. So those open office plans, or any environment where you've got multiple stimulus happening, can be great for triggering us into flow. But as you mentioned, they can also be a huge distraction and a constant sort of pain for us, and leave us feeling quite stressed. And then we get to the end of the day and we're exhausted because there's so much that they're trying to stay on top of. And in terms of finding flow towards that, we can really, if we change the whole paradigm, if we reframe that whole environment to say, okay, instead of I'm trying to find flow with writing this email and I've got all this distraction, or as a parent, instead of I'm trying to find flow with washing the dishes or doing something whilst I've got to keep an eye on that and make sure no one falls over backwards over the settee. If we can start to see the whole role as one role, if we start to see, okay, my whole task here is to stay focused on this email that I'm writing, whilst just scanning the relevant information to see if anything's relevant. And we stop seeing them as distractions, but we start seeing them as irrelevant information. We lose that kind of subjective triggering reaction to these distractions, and we can just start to slowly zone out of them, see them as irrelevant. And as soon as they become relevant, because it's part of our job to include it, then we can take that bit of information, bring it into the experience, and none of it is distractions. It's all part of the task at hand, which is how when you look at roles like translators, for example, simultaneously taking in information, looking at what's happening, but then having to write exactly what's happening, they're doing exactly that. They've made a choice, and they've framed the whole experience as all of these things that are happening is my single task. And therefore there's no conflict for them. And everything just becomes feedback. And there's an acceptance and a fluidity to that movement and experience, instead of that constant conflict and struggle of, I'm trying to do this, but I've got this, that, and X. So, in summary, really taking the whole picture and seeing the whole picture as one single task can really help the mind and body to stop seeing the distractions as conflict, but relevant or irrelevant information.